Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining me today. So, I am just getting my headphones in as people are joining us. Hopefully, I'm not too loud. I figured you'd be able to hear me a little bit better this way. I give you full permission to turn me down a smidge if I'm too loud. All right. Jumping in. My name is Alex Bowden. I am the founder of People First Talent and Recruitment Consulting. Today, we are going to talk about what you didn't realize hiring costed and what it's costing you. As we kick off 2019, ready to dig into our growth and profit goals, I think this is going to be a really pertinent webinar for all of my business leaders out there. Now, I would be remiss not to tell you a little bit about who's talking to you today. So that is me. And on a personal note, that is my little family down there on the bottom left. I have been a recruiter, a headhunter, a hiring manager, a department leader, a diversity chair, and overall held a multitude of roles within the HR and talent setting. I'm also SHRM and Lean Recruiter certified and have leveraged that broad expertise to help a variety of clients on many levels. Now, what would a webinar be without an agenda? And I want to be respectful of your time, so I'm going to share what you're going to gain from this webinar along with some guarantees so that you'll walk away feeling like these next 20 minutes were well spent. What you'll learn in the next 20 minutes, how much hiring actually costs, why it's so difficult to get it right, the cost to value of an employee, and then my guarantee to you is that you will learn how to calculate your cost to hire and know where you stack up in the 2019 labor market. So, time is of the essence for all of us. I'm going to jump right in with a couple staggering data points. $700 billion. Did you know that an estimated 25% of employees left their jobs in 2018, and that more than 3/4 of that turnover could have been prevented? The same estimations predict that employers will have paid $600 billion in turnover costs, and that number will be increasing to almost $700 billion by 2020. That is a lot of money. Now, 43% of organizations don't presently track the cost to recruit, hire, and onboard new employees. I was pretty shocked when I saw this because that's almost half of businesses that exist nationwide. And we'll get into a little bit later why that's going to be an important thing for you to know about your company. $4,425 was the national average of cost to hire per employee in 2017. You're probably wondering why I'm giving you 2017 numbers. That probably seems like ages ago at this point. And it does not include salary, benefits, or onboarding and training costs. That's simply the recruiting piece. But we're waiting on 2018 data to come in, so I want to put things in perspective with you. 2018 was an even tougher candidate market for employers, and we're going to continue to see record increases in the challenges businesses face on finding and retaining top talent. So that means this number is going to continue to grow. An average company loses anywhere between 1% and 2.5% of their total revenue on the time it takes to bring a new hire up to speed. I want to pause on that for a second because it's not just about getting them in the door. That's a whole separate effort and cost. But getting them onboarded, getting them trained, and then getting them up to speed to the point they're actually producing for the company is a whole separate piece that people think about when it comes to attrition and the cost of that. Lastly, in a study by Deloitte, they found that the average cost of turnover for each employee is between 1.5 to 2 times that person's salary. Jumping back to the second data point that showed us a large portion of organizations don't actually track their hiring and retention costs, that is a pretty substantial expense. And for a small to medium-sized business, that's going to add up very quickly. Okay, if you've been struggling to find or keep top talent, or if hiring consistently feels like an arduous but necessary evil, you are not alone. Most companies don't know how to successfully tackle the elusive challenge of hiring and retaining employees. Or the process they currently have is slightly clunky and costing them much more in top talent than they even realize. If you identify with this statement, or If you're not yet convinced of the importance of implementing an ironclad strategy, I'm going to share a little more information, and I hope it might resonate with you. 72.8% of businesses are struggling to find relevant candidates. When's the last time you looked closely at your applicant pool or connected with your internal HR department? Maybe you're one of the few lucky ones getting hundreds of applicants, but are they the right ones? Do you know what the right ones are or how to determine that? 86% of qualified candidates are not actively seeking jobs. That means that most job seekers need to be lured in by something fantastic or need to be actively sought after. Gone are the days of what we recruiters refer to as the post and pray method, where you simply list a job on as many sites as you can find, throw a lot of money at it, and hope that it turns up the talent you need. That was so simple and one and done. I get it, but it's just not working anymore. So we have to be going about it in a different way these days. Top candidates stay available for an average of 10 days. I'm going to give you a second with that one. What is your current time to fill rate? I guarantee if you're like most companies, it could be anywhere from 2.5 to 6 months. Now, you're not bad or wrong for having a long and clunky process. That's actually worked for most companies in the past, and there are a lot of businesses that are still trying to just get by in this area. But there are so many ways to make the process more lean and efficient and eliminate the significant burden that hiring can place on your staff. Okay, for these next ones, I want you to pause for a second and think about Glassdoor. Just reflect on that. Maybe the last time you had your inbox notify you at a random time of day, for me it was always like 1 o'clock in the morning, don't ask me why, that a disgruntled former employee posted a smearing review. Is your blood pressure rising a bit? I know that I've been in that position and it's incredibly frustrating. And I think most companies at this point wish they could put Glassdoor out of business, but unfortunately it's probably here to stay. And your company reputation has a crucial impact on your ability to hire. And that is because 55% of job seekers abandon applications after reading negative reviews online. 84% of job seekers say reputation of a company affects their decision to even apply in the first place. And 50% of candidates say they wouldn't work for a company with a bad reputation, even for a pay increase. Now, this is not something you can just throw money at. You might be a company that's doing really great in profit, but you have a pretty high turnover. And you're thinking, it's okay because we can afford to pay people more than our competitors. But candidates are getting smart and they're starting to value culture and fit and the experience they have in an organization above money. So this is something you really need to look at through a different lens if you're not already. All right, we did talk about hiring. So I want to get into the retention portion. And I really love this graphic because it helps put all of this data into a visual that's a bit more digestible. Why does turnover cost so much? Why is it so complex to calculate? If you're not directly involved in hiring, then there are a lot of pieces that you might not know to consider. Think about the amount of time and money that goes into some of the things I'm about to share with you. Putting together a job description, paying annual fees to access job boards, paying fees to post on those job boards. Yes, I know, crazy, but they're actually separate things. Paying fees to sponsor the posting on those job boards so they're actually seen and not showing up on the 11th page or somewhere far down the way that nobody actually ventures. Paying staffing firm fees that can range from 18 to 25% of the person's salary if you can't find them on your own. Interviewing for the 2.5 to 6 months we already established it can take. The cost of an employee's total compensation package, the time it takes to onboard and train a new employee into their role, and then finally the time it takes a new hire to really start making an impact. That's a pretty significant investment of time and money that's going down the drain if you're not able to retain that employee. And that's what I love about this graphic. It really shows the whole process, the whole life cycle, and points out the portion where they're not just in their learning curve stage, but they're actually contributing back to the organization. And that's the key spot. That's what we all want to get to.
Get out those pads and pens. Are you ready to do some math with me? No, I'm just kidding. Since we've already established that a number of companies never calculate the cost of turnover, I've just included an example formula for you here. And it's similar to the types of numbers your HR department can run to determine an overview of what hiring and retention is costing you and your business. And I encourage you to ask them to do that. It's a really important thing to understand. And this is a simplified formula. Some of them, to get more accurate, are very, very complex. So go after this webinar, if not right after, then a couple days, couple weeks, and ask them to take a stab at it. But if you're anything like me, I don't want to have to sit and do a ton of math to get a quick glimpse of the big picture. So that is why I've included a link to an online calculator. Gotta love the internet. Give it a try. Click on the link under Try It. We're going to do a little work together real quick. So take a couple minutes. Open up that window and type in some preliminary numbers. And I'm going to guide you through it to give you an idea of some averages. If you already know some averages on your own, great. You can turn me down a little bit so that I'm not distracting you. But if you need some help getting started, I'm going to go through some of these with you. So you're going to click on Advanced Calculation to expand that window to 2 rows. And since we're talking small to medium-sized businesses, we're going to type in an average of 250 employees. And then jumping over to average salary, we could be looking at frontline workers that are hourly, mid-level employees, high-level C-suite executives. There's a broad range. Let's just say $68,000 as an average salary. And then rate of attrition, across the nation, it's about an average 20%. That could range greatly depending on the industry. But for this, 20% of 250 is put in 50 employees per year that are leaving the company. And then pop on down, what does it cost to find new talent? This is just the hiring piece. And I know we looked at that number of around $4,300. That was, 2017, but let's keep it at that and say 7%. How long does it take to fill a position? We're going to be generous and say 45 days. Most companies are probably not operating this quickly, but like I said, we'll be nice. And then how long does it take to ramp up a new hire? I would say this could be anywhere from 3 to 6 months, but again, we'll be nice. We'll type in 45 days. Maybe you got someone that's just hitting the ground running. And then value an individual produces. For this one, I encourage you to put in at least 1.5%. And that's because I think we all hope that, we're not breaking even when we hire someone, that they're producing at least a little bit more than what we hire them for. So let's do 1.5%. And then take a look at what that auto calculator is showing for you. What number did you get? And what's your initial reaction to that number? Now, the goal isn't to scare you, it's to give you an idea of what turnover could be costing your business and how that might be standing in the way of you reaching your growth and profit goals. We have made it to market trends. We are almost there, you guys. You're in the home stretch. Now, as we've just entered 2019, we are all facing the same challenges. What do we do about it? Growth-minded organizations will be willing to invest in adapting to the market changes so that they can face these challenges head on. With that in mind, I am going to share with you some of the top challenges for 2019. First is competition for talent. That's not new to anybody. We've been facing that a couple of years now. And the inability to find qualified talent or to have long-term openings is resulting in an average of $800,000 annually lost in productivity and advertising fees. Unfortunately, it's getting worse, not better. A slow time to hire. We already looked at that average of people on the market, or at least top candidates on the market, for 10 days. And the unemployment rate is currently at a national average of 3.7%. That's already gone down from this time last year when the average was 4.2%. So in 1 year, we've seen significant changes in our candidate availability market, and it's going to get harder. Reactive hiring refers to you waiting until the last minute to fill a position. So you're scrambling, and maybe somebody is leaving with a really specific set of skills that you don't have internally ready to backfill. It's probably going to take you a lot longer to find someone with that niche set of skills. Or if it's on a client team that has a lot of turnover and the client's getting really frustrated, this could cause a lot of stress and problems on your end. You want to be thinking more proactively about hiring. Poor candidate experience, I won't talk too long about that one because we're going to get into that a lot on the next slide. And then lack of team collaboration. This is no longer just an HR recruiting problem. This is an everybody problem because people are your business. And all of these issues impact your business. We've already seen how much they impact your bottom line. So you need to understand what your HR department is doing. You need to understand what the hiring managers are looking for, and make sure that's being properly expressed. You want to look long-term in terms of your business goals and the culture you're trying to create. Do those people fit into that culture? Or does your business culture fit with the people you're trying to hire? So it's a much bigger picture problem, and everybody really needs to work together to be solving it. All right. I wouldn't be very kind if I just shared all the challenges without some ideas on what to do about them. Experts in our field have determined the top trends for 2019 that businesses need to focus on to combat their hiring and retention problems. And I have cherry-picked what I feel are the most important 7 to share with you today. The first is recruitment marketing. These are proactive strategies put into place to find and attract the right talent that fits your organization's needs and culture over a long period of time. That long-term notion is key here, everyone, because you can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars annually on short-term fixes like outsourcing hiring to staffing agencies or headhunters. And I'm not saying that staffing agencies or headhunters aren't amazing resources. As you know, I used to be one. They're great in a pinch. They are great with hard-to-fill roles, niche positions. But if you find this to be your go-to hiring practice, you might want to take a deeper look at why you're needing to leverage their help so consistently. Employer branding. This is a component of recruitment marketing, but it's not the same thing. Your employer brand should answer these 4 questions before you can implement an effective recruitment strategy. And I'm going to let you grab a pen to write these down. You'll also be able to download this webinar after the fact, but it may be good to make a note. Which positions do you need to fill, both now and in the future? Who is your ideal candidate? What makes you an exceptional employer? And why would your ideal candidate want to work for your company? Moving on to candidate experience, this is one of those silent but deadly killers of a hiring process. And that's because outside of interview reviews on Glassdoor, you probably don't hear much about your candidate's experiences, but it will greatly impact your ability to hire long-term and your employer brand. Now, we're all in customer service, right? If you're in business, you're serving a customer. And we know very well that when people are happy, you don't hear anything. When they're unhappy, boy, do you hear about it. It's the same thing with candidates. If they're having a really crummy experience going through your process, they're going to be telling people about it. You better believe it. So if you're making them wait and wait for their scheduled interview, if you're rescheduling them multiple times, if you're making them go through 5, 6 rounds of interviewing just to not get a job in the end, and even worse, if they interview with you and you're making them wait weeks to get a response. Job seeking is an exceptionally stressful process. We have all been through it at some point in time. And so I urge you to put yourself in their shoes and understand what it's like being on the other side of the table. Okay, so this is really important to people, and it's really important to people how they're treated throughout the process. And then there's an even further impact that I'm going to get into next. That's talent pools. So another reason why candidate experience is so important is that you have talent you've already engaged that you're probably not leveraging. Think about a time you had to fill a position, and maybe you had, 3 candidates that you narrowed it down to, and they were all great. You liked them for different reasons. You pick one for whatever reason, and you move on with your life. A year down the road, 6 months down the road, whatever, you're thinking back to those candidates. Maybe one of them didn't have quite enough experience yet, but by now they might have gained that experience. Maybe another just had a different set of skills and strengths they brought to the table that were equally as valid, but not quite as pertinent for that role. But this role they'd be great for. They're already engaged with your employer brand, right? They already know your company and what you do. They've already been interested enough to apply the first time around. But if they've had a really poor experience with your company through the interview process, they're not going to want to re-engage with you. So you've shot yourself in the foot a little bit on that one. And that's why it's important to make sure you're focusing on that for everybody. Candidate relationship management. This goes hand in hand with candidate experience, but it's referring to the relationship from first contact through hiring and retaining the employee. So that's performance plans, development plans, ongoing engagement after they get in the door as well. Social recruiting. Now, if you talk to my friends and family, they probably would express a lot of frustration with the fact that I never check my Snapchat or Instagram or keep up with those things as well as I should. But social recruiting is inevitable. And if you want to tap into different talent networks, you're going to need to have a strategy in place to play in those places. Last but certainly not least is onboarding. This reflects the time period between accepting an offer with your company, starting, training, and the first 12 to 18 months as they fully immerse themselves within your organization. This is often one of the most neglected components of hiring and retention, yet 69% of employees are more likely to stay with a company for 3 or more years if they experienced great onboarding. Sit with that for a second. 3/4 of your new hires could be staying with your company for more than 3 years if they have a great onboarding experience. If you're missing that piece, that's a huge miss, you guys. That's a really key component that a lot of people overlook. We've made it. Now that we have reached the end, I hope you found it informative, and I hope you've realized a little bit more about what hiring and retention could be costing you, as well as some strategies to get started. I do want to take a moment and let you know that if you feel overwhelmed by all this information and don't know where to start, that is very normal. These are extremely complex problems and they are not solved by a single approach. That's why People First takes a holistic approach to solving hiring and retention challenges that produces long-term results. Now, you need to take the first step. You need to take the first step of putting a strategy into place, taking a deeper look in these areas. And if you need help, hop on a free strategy call with us. Discuss directly with me your unique challenges. You can follow the links on the screen to either email me or visit us online and schedule directly onto my calendar according to your convenience. Either way, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that you learned something and gained something out of it, and I look forward to talking to you soon.